Well, now I want to introduce Tom Farrell for his scratch building of his layout. Welcome, Tom. Hope you had a great New Year.
I did. Thank you for having me, and it's great to see everybody at the start of the new year here. And I've got something different. I don't have a structure this evening. I have some actual work on my layout. So let me get that going here. Okay. So this evening, I'm going to show you how I put together this tunnel, this mountain behind it, and the scenery and the billboard, basically, and this little bit of detail here, which you can't really see, but you'll see later in the show. This is something I've had for years. It's not resin, it's like some sort of foam of some sort. I've been wanting to use it at some point. I usually build them myself. The fellow whoever built this built it out of 1/4-inch stock, which is very common, 1 foot in O scale. There's a big leap here how I colored it. Basically, I sprayed it a chocolate brown, and then I went back with acrylics, white, black, and brown, and just painted it. I had a missing component here. Fortunately, this guy did use 1/4-inch material, so I made my own here. And these straps are easy to make as well. All they are is styrene, like 010. And then these are Grant line bolt heads. I just cut them off, and with either super glue or styrene glue, I used a combination of both. I glued them onto the styrene. And when this is all painted, you'll see it's indistinguishable from the cast. These ones are cast on there. These ones I put on there. On the inside of the tunnel, I wanted a tunnel liner, because if you're on the outside of this tunnel looking in, you can see this wall. And I didn't want the viewer to see this scenic backdrop. I wanted them to see an actual tunnel liner. So I had to do a little kit bashing here, if you will, a little retrofit. So I wasn't high enough. So I built it up by 3 1/4-inch sticks, and then I finished off the end. Next up, this is on the edge of the layout, and I needed to extend the fascia board upward. So I marked 2 holes here where I'm going to put dowel rods and add a board here. So those are my 2 marks. They're just dead center of this MDF here. This is the full scale O scale track. I use this old fashioned drill because all my drills are out in my shed, and it was too cold for me to go out there and get them. So I had this in the house. It worked fine. I drilled these 2 holes, and this thing's probably 100 years old. Got it from my grandfather. Then I put some glue on the end here, and then I put this board. It's not MDF, it's just pine board. There's 2 dowel rods in there. So when this all dried, it was just quite stout. So this is the right-hand side of the tunnel. This is the actual tunnel again, flipped. I put tacky glue on here, real thick Elmer's glue, if you will. And then I placed it onto the layout, and I just took two solvent cans for weights, put it on top of this to fasten this down onto the layout itself. This is my first full-scale O-scale freight car. I got this off of eBay. Pat, actually, one of our members, gave me a little guidance on this about a month and a half ago. Look at the difference between a narrow gauge car, On30, and a full standard gauge. There's a significant difference. This is looking down into the tunnel. I put a black piece of plywood here, painted it flat black. So when you look in here, you won't see any detail. You won't see the back wall. And I also put a ceiling on here of plywood, painted it black. Now this area here is to the left of the tunnel, and I thought it would be a great place to put just some sort of scenic interest. So I came across a HO scale metal scrap load that goes in a gondola. And I marked it to notch it out so it would, as you'll see, it'll fit against that retaining wall. Here's the idea, it just fits right in there. See my notching? The trick is when you use something like this is you don't want a, let me go back. You don't want a straight line here. You'll see how I mask. It's indistinct. You'll see that you won't see a line here when I'm all done. And I wanted this notch so that the junk, the scrap would go right up against the wall. So my entire layout's made out of the surface is 2-inch foam. I just dug this out with an X-Acto knife, couple different blades, just then vacuumed it away. And I lowered that HO gondola load into the layout. And I got it more or less flush with the pink foam. Now here's the trick here. I took this tacky glue and I purposely went into the load so that when I add cinders, it completely masks the fact that there's a parallel line here. It just disappears. And I added some details like some wood and a grate, pipe, but you can't tell that this is a gondola load anymore. And you can see these straps now. I've weathered them with pan pastels, and I'm showing a little rust running down here. The rails are rusted, and the ballast, I went back and added a alcohol wash there as well. Now for the ceiling or the mountain above the tunnel, I took a piece of 2-inch foam. Not a real great photo, but that's that foam right there. I put in a smaller piece right here, and then I had this brainstorm to put a billboard here, my previous rustic buff and old Gothic railroad. So I just had this in the back of my mind. I took some scrap pieces of 2-inch foam. They're not glued, they're just laid in there to the rough contour of the, it's going to be a mountain, but it's only about 6 inches high here. And I started with a gauze material that I ordered off of Amazon. I got a whole box of it now. I cut it into about, well, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, about 6-inch long pieces that are roughly 4 inches wide. I cut a whole bunch of them off of this roll. Then I put them in the water. I'm sure you've all did this before. And then I just sloppily put them on that those foam pieces. These aren't glued. I didn't see any reason to do that. I put down 2 layers. And then because I'm on this, got to get this done in a week's time, I put a hair dryer on here and went back and forth for about 20 minutes till it basically hardened. And one nice thing about my new backdrop, my old rustic buff and old Gothic railroad had a photo for a backdrop, but it was photo paper. So if you got plaster on it, you basically ruined it. This is a vinyl material that I just wiped all the mess right off of it. There was no harm to it. I'm like, there's a little, you know, all this just all came right off, as you'll see. Then I mixed up some Sculptamold. I always go with the cloth, the plaster impregnated cloth, and then Sculpt-A-Mold. Then I Sculpt-A-Molded the whole top. This makes it rock hard, and this normally takes a couple days to dry. This wiped completely off. Would have been, I'd have to be really careful with the old backdrop. This one, it just didn't matter. There, I painted it with a Woodland Scenics earth color. Wiped this off. See, the plaster came right off. I went back and had to recolor this. You see, I got a little white on there. Then while the paint was still wet, I put down various terrain materials, including random greens, browns, little bushes and things. This is going to be covered with trees, but I like a nice base to it. So this is basically the base, if you will. And then I started putting in my billboard here. And then I started adding the trees. These are these deciduous trees I made from just a flocking material and a material called super trees. You buy it in a big bag, and they're brown, and I typically spray them, and then I spray them with adhesive, and then sprinkle materials on there to make these trees. These are store-bought, or show-bought, I should say. And it's quite effective, all in place. There's the scrap down there. This is unfinished right now, but there's my billboard. There's the trees, and there's the full-size car. There's another flat car. It's a pretty nice, effective scene. This is the interchange from the shanty town that switches from narrow gauge to standard gauge. This goes east to Harrisburg, let's say. My layout is narrow gauge is fictitious, but it simulates themed southern Indiana and Pittsburgh. So there's a loose connection to a standard gauge line. Anyway, that's all I got for you today. Yep.
Anybody have any questions for Tom? Well, it's beautiful modeling, Tom. It really is.
Thank you. It's coming along. Another couple of weeks, and I'll have this section of the layout done, and I'll move to another new section. Yeah. It's been almost 7 months doing this part of the layout. I know it's not a race, but it does take time.
Well, and he's going to be taking a slight break because next week Tom starts building a Frenchman River couple of models for their build along. And I think you're really going to enjoy this because it's something a little different for the show. And again, the owners of Frenchman River are super nice people. Their products are great, I think. And I think you're really going to enjoy the build along that Tom's going to start next week. So Tom, thanks so much for doing all of this for the show.
Yeah, as a quick reminder, there's a discount offered by Frenchman River Model Works for this either O scale or HO scale. It's called a 34-foot lobster boat kit with a waterline hull. If you want to do the build along, I urge you to take the discount because we'll be starting that next Wednesday. And I've started the kit. It's incredibly detailed. Resin kits are far more detailed than styrene kits, and they're easier to put together. The art's in the painting of them.
And there's another part of the build along, and that's the shed that goes on the land side of it. So really between the ship and the shed, you've got an industry that you're creating for your model railroad. And I think that's kind of special because it's something different.
Yep. Thank you again for having me, and wish everybody a happy new year. And that's all, folks.
I'm glad you're well. I'm glad you're well and happy, and look forward to a great year with you, Tom. Thanks so much for your help.
Thank you. Yeah.